My name's Rory Schroeder.
Okay. And your birthday?
April 1st, 1955.
All right. What do you do for a living?
I'm a plumber here in Elkhorn.
All right. And how did you end up living in Elkhorn?
My mother and father moved around a lot, just in throughout the Douglas County area and a little bit up into Washington County. And when I was in third grade, we moved to a farmhouse just out south of Elkhorn off of Pacific Street, and started going to school at Elkhorn at that time, and then went clear through school and graduated here from Elkhorn, and continued to work with my father then and my brother in our plumbing business.
All right. So did you go to Westridge?
Yes. Yep.
I
We
went
went.
there too.
Yeah. Only it's a little different than when I used to go there.
And then you graduated here from Elkhorn?
Yes. Yeah. At that time, we were all in what's now the middle school.
Yeah.
My class was the first class to go clear from 7th grade all the way through to senior and graduate from that particular building at that time. So, claim to fame, I guess you'd call it.
Do you remember when they built the high school?
Yeah, it was being built just as, as of course we were going through elementary school and they just gotten it finished up at that time. They were having the high school and that where the administration building was at. And so, and then it wasn't long after that then I think, when they started on the project out here to move the high school then out here south of town.
Okay. How do you feel about the growth of Elkhorn, or what changes have you noticed since back in 1960 to now? The schools, the population.
Well, the schools, of course, have been a major addition to the community with Hill Rise and Skyline, and probably the biggest thing has been like the Skyline Ranches housing addition, and that you're getting the big homes, and then probably another thing was the church growth in Elkhorn. When I first started going to living here in town and there going to school and that, all we had was the Lutheran church and the Catholic church.
Yeah.
And it was right in there in the mid 60s then that the Baptist church come into being, and then around 1970 or 71 then they built a new building, and then boy, since then you've got the Methodist church and the community church and the Presbyterian church and all the different churches that come in with more people, of course, all the time. But that and bowling alley and all of that the Hill Rise edition and so on and so forth. That all was happening as I was growing up and then getting becoming an adult here in town and that. So.
What part of Elkhorn did you grow up in?
We lived out on little acreages or farm places out south of Elkhorn mainly. So like during elementary school, we were on the buses and come into school and that, and then when we got old enough, then we drove in and that. But I was a country kid coming into town, and so that we always lived out kind of south of town.
Do you still live in Elkhorn?
We live out north of town about 8 miles, but for 20 years after we got out of school, my wife and I, which she went to school in Elkhorn here too, we had 2 children, and they went to a small country school out just south of Elkhorn until the 6th grade, and then when they would become 6th graders, and they came into the middle school and went all the way through and graduated from Elkhorn here. So just been around Elkhorn.
Okay. Do you have any stories about school, any interesting things? I don't know, any stories?
Well, probably the biggest thing with school that's so different for you guys, being in school now. We were in the same building as going as 7th and 8th graders as the rest of the high school. So here we were, 7th and 8th grade kids, you know, being in with the seniors and the juniors and all the, and we got to be a part of, the school is such a size that we got to be a part of the pep band and the marching band and everything, all the way up with the high schoolers, because the school was of such a size that, you know, you had a number of people that were playing ball or cheerleading or so on and so forth. So at the band, there wouldn't be enough people. And so at that time, our band director, Mr. Kyman, he did all the way from grade school all the way through the high school band. He did them all. And so he'd get us junior high kids in playing with all the senior. Oh, that was cool. You know, sitting next, playing your horn, sitting next to a senior or a junior girl, you know, and oh man, that was just, you know, that was just the neatest thing. And then being able to, probably the biggest experiences was like in the late 60s and 68, 69, and 70, Elkhorn got to go to the state basketball tournament. And so here we were, 7th and 8th graders, getting to go down to at that time, the Pershing Auditorium and all, the state tournament, and be playing, you know, and we're cheering them all on, and you know, being a part of the high school, you know, being in with the high schoolers. That, and then the school was of such a size that, and we were all together in that building, you knew a lot of people out of all the different classes. Now, I don't know about you guys. Do you guys even get to know all your classmates? You know, that's pretty tough. I mean, because how big's your class?
Well, there's 120 on each team, so 200 some.
Yeah, see, we had 73 graduate with our class. And we were one of the bigger classes in 1973. You know, we were, before that, I mean, it was, you know, nothing to have maybe 40 up to 50 or 60, you know, in a class. And there was a few 60s even after our, you know, we graduated. But probably one of the biggest things was knowing, you know, you could walk down the hall and be an 8th grader and say hello to a senior girl and she'd know you by name, or a senior guy, a ball player, you know, and he'd be able to know you by name, and you know, that you don't have as we've gotten bigger and with more kids and everything. But there's a lot of things that we, you know, we never had that you guys did have.
Now, how did you feel about that when you were a senior and they were the 7th and 8th graders?
Oh, it's all right. I mean, sure, you got, you know, they get giggly, or they get, you know, teasing or whatever and stuff like that. And you want to play the tough guy, hard guy, you know, whatever. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, it wasn't a bad thing, because it was kind of neat to know a lot of people. You know, a lot of them were brothers and sisters to your classmates. And so, I mean, you'd see them other places, and you'd tease them and play with, you know. Of course, Mr. White and some of the other school officials would keep us in line. But no, that's probably the biggest change. I mean, you're lucky, you guys are lucky to even know all of your classmates, you know, let alone any other classes. And here, we were knowing, you know, kids several grades either side of you.
Yeah,
You know.
that's the thing I liked about Elkhorn when I first moved out here, was that, like, everybody knows everybody
Oh,
in
yeah.
the town.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, it's just kind of fun. Like, in Omaha, you don't get to experience that. So,
No.
yeah.
Well, and then to have, especially like with Elkhorn, having the community things. You know, you got your soccer leagues and the baseball leagues and stuff like that. And summertime, so many times I think in Omaha, you can just get stuck in a neighborhood. You know your neighborhood, but you don't get to know everything that's going on throughout the whole town. So.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know, but every year how they have the July, 4th of July parade.
Sure.
How long have they been doing that? Or did they do that back in?
No, we didn't have so much a city thing. A lot of times, the big thing for us during the summer, as we were growing up, was Douglas County Fair, because it was down at Waterloo. And it was a lot more rural. It was a lot more, you know, you getting to see the Valley kids and Waterloo people and stuff like that. When and really, so Elkhorn didn't have like an Elkhorn Days per se. That really came about here in the last few years, mainly because they moved the fair into Omaha. And so you didn't have that during the summer get-together that you would, or that we used to. And so then there was a number of folks that got together and planned to have a Elkhorn Days, and that was kind of fun. Here is, I don't know, probably 5, 6 years ago when one of the first ones came in, the band director at that time here in Elkhorn made some inquiries, and he got a number of us alumni together, and we played, got together and practiced a couple weeks ahead of time with the Elkhorn band, that were kids that were available, and had a kind of a mini concert down at the Tahazuka Park, and that was really a lot of fun. I mean, you got to, it brought back a lot of memories. And there again, playing the pep band and that kind of stuff, but that was kind of neat. That was nice to see that because Elkhorn hadn't had that before. So.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any other stories or interesting things that ever happened to you that was funny or anything?
Situated with a town. One of my probably the toughest memory, right? It wasn't tough, but I mean it was just a country kid coming in to be with some of my buddies here that lived in town, and so we're used to that. Halloween was kind of the time that kids would get out, and we'd go out and throw pumpkins and stuff like that. It was a little bit more coordinated than I think what it is today. Well, here I must have been probably 7th or 8th grade, and buddies invited me in, just stay overnight or whatever. And so there was 3 or 4 of us out, and we were out just, walking around town, just kind of seeing what was going on and stuff. And one of the guys had just gotten a slingshot for whatever, he picked it up and whatever. And so we were out, and we were down below Westridge, down in that lot down there, the playground area down there. And so we were shooting at the bank and stuff like that. Well, different guys, we were all taking turns at it or whatever. Here I'm country, so I'm not used to the city or having to worry about other people's houses and stuff like that. And so I wheel around, and we're messing around and stuff, and I wheel around and I fire off the little pebble that I had in the slingshot, and right then the police car is driving by the lower street, and I must have plinked the car because he slams on the brakes and stops, and of course those guys, all being used to this, they just scatter. They're gone. And here I am just standing there, not knowing, you gotta run, you don't stand there. Well, this was the chief, and well, at that time, I don't even know if he had any deputies or not. It was pretty much just a one police officer town, and it was Malay Hollister, and he's just been around the town. He was town mayor at times, he was chief of police, and as you visit with some of the other folks from town, they could tell you about Malay. Well, Malay, he stops and says, "Come over here, son," and so I'm going over there, I'm just shaking in my boots. I know my dad's just going to let me have it because I messed up, the first time I get to come to town, and asks who I am, and of course he knows my dad. My dad's a plumber in town and works in town, and he knows Dad, and well, son, we're going to have to call your parents and all this, and I'm thinking, and I'm in the back of the police car, and I'm used to riding horses out, on our ground, not in town, dealing with all the new things of town, and that was one of those things where you learn real fast to not let the guys dupe you into something. But Mr. Hollister, he was just great. I mean, just, well, now I'm gonna have to take this slingshot. So then I had to pay for the slingshot to my buddy, because I gave up the slingshot too. But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things. Funny memories, personal memories. Probably the other memories would be the growing up of the town, the bowling alley going in and having a hot spot. That was the place to go to, you know, all through school. The dairy chef getting built, and at that time it just had 4 or 5 or 6 stools inside. Just the littlest part of the building was all that was there originally. And you couldn't sit down at these stools, you know, and you know, those kind of things. It was, you know, moving of all the activity from being downtown to coming up onto the highway. The post office and the grocery store and the drugstore and all that getting built up on the highway. That all used to be downtown, so that's where everybody went, downtown. Was going down
that
there.
seems so funny to me, because that's what like all me and my friends do. We always go to the bowling alley,
Yes.
dairy chef, and the pool.
Well, see, now that hasn't changed, other than we didn't have the pool at that time. That came along as we were getting out of school and that. But no, you know, downtown was the activity hub, you know, when we were kids and stuff, and so, I mean, it was just, you know, memories of the town growing and evolving and changing and stuff, so.
Well, let's see, I think that's about it, unless you have anything else to say.
No, you know, other than just watching, like you say, all the people coming in and back in the old days, I would have known your parents, and they would have known my parents, and that kind of thing. And it's probably, you know, that's probably the biggest thing is trying to make the move into a little bit larger city.
Yeah.
So, and then watching Omaha come out.
Yeah.
Used to be, it was a trip to go to Omaha. You had to plan, because about the farthest thing out was, well, West Roads was just getting built. You know, and that was one of the farthest things out. Well, you know, look at how much it's come out since then.
I know.
So. And then, like you say, as you talk with some of the other folks in town, you know, used to be 72nd Street was the farthest thing west. You know, we weren't even thinking about Omaha coming out and getting this close to Elkhorn at that time. So, but it happens. Growth comes.
Okay, well, are you guys going to take a still shot? Okay, so just look in the back camera and
Okay.
we'll take a still shot of you. It takes about 5 seconds.
There was no picture. It was just words. How sad.